Jai Ma, everyone. Blessings for gathering to study the beautiful hymn, Bhaja Govindam. We are privileged and grateful to be sitting at the feet of Adi Shankaracharya and his legendary disciples. And their dialogue, their teaching, their discussion has become a path shower for the rest of us. Over thousands of years, Bhaja Govindam has echoed in the corridors of wherever genuine Vedanta teachings are occurring. Vedanta teaching is not a scholarly teaching where we study about Brahman, Atman, and we become realized. As long as our mind is not detached from samsara, and it is still full of the noise of desires, disappointments, and chase. Until that time, the self which dwells beyond the mind does not reveal itself. As a result, an important aspect of our journey is to cultivate niramoha, to go beyond delusions, to go beyond cravings and excessive control of desires. This is what Bhaj Govindam is helping us do. And today, with a quick short review of verse 16, which we have already looked at in a previous satsang session, we will continue to go forward in our study. So, verse 16 was looking at the false renunciation, which is an outer renunciation. It is addressing this tendency for the ego to think that if I withdraw simple comforts from my life and if I torture the body, I am closer to the divine. And this is true of every religion. Asceticism to the point of delusion is present in every spiritual journey. But sure, to be very clear, this is not the case. And the student of Shankaracharya, Hasta Amalaka, says this in verse 16. Agane vahini prishte bhanu रात्रौ चुबक समर्पित जानु अग्निवहिनी पृष्ठे भानु रात्रो चुबक समर्पित जानु करतल भीक्षः तरुतलवासा तदपि न मुञ्चति आशापाशः भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दम भज मूढमते. Behold, there lies a person. What is he doing? He's either warming up his body with the fire burning in front of him. So he's really cold. He must be shivering. And he is sitting probably outdoors, giving up the comforts of a cozy home and trying to warm his body somehow with bits and pieces of gathered wood. Or he is sitting in the sun, probably the scorching sun, probably the sun to somehow warm himself up. And at night, he curls up in his body, shivering with cold, and eats. So, probably doesn't have a warm blanket or a warm, cozy bed, and eats the food like beggars do by begging, and sleeps beneath a tree. The only home he can claim for that night is a tree. And then the last ironical line that's still in his heart, this he is a wretched he, she is a wretched puppet in the hands of what? Asha, desire, hope against hope. So hope is being used not in its typical sense, the way samsara says, have hope, but it is even looking at the delusion that is hope. Because to have hope is to not be okay with what is right now. And to not be okay with what is right now is to not be okay with the divine order, with the orchestration of the entire universe. So the hope is a clutch for sansaris, whereas the reality as it is the domain of yogis. So in this verse, we are being told in a very straightforward manner that renunciation is internal. It's an inside job. Spiritual path is an inside job. And you see, it may not be that familiar to you based on which country you are living in. But let me tell you that in India, you cannot walk down a single street without meeting such people, these beggar-like spiritual folks who are wearing typically orange, red, or white clothes. They have dreadlocks. They have an unkept appearance, and they claim to be one with God. They have renounced home, family, and clearly these seekers, they're not they're not trying to deceive us necessarily. They really think they're on that path. But these sadhus and sadhavis and yogis are not deceiving others necessarily, but deceiving themselves, poor things, because they do not have right knowledge, because they did not have a guru who could guide them with Bhaja Govindam and other teachings of the Gita. They never understood the purport of the spiritual journey, that what we renounce is the mind and its restlessness. And that is why in the Ashtavakra Gita, we come across in its chapter 8, verse 1, this teaching that tada bandho yada chittam kinchit vanchita shochati kinchit munchati ghrihणati kinchit drishyati kupyati. And what does it mean? It means that, look here, as long as the mind pines for something, longs for something, and has reasons to complain about something, grieves for something, then it wants to reject something. I don't like this. I don't want this. And it wants to hold on to something. I don't want to lose this. Take everything, but don't take this. And is privately happy about something and is privately unhappy about something. Then, until that time, you are a bandhi, you are bandha, you are imprisoned in samsara. Just take a moment. It is here where the key is of unlocking yourself from the samsaric suffering. It is not in your rejection of comforts by becoming more holy. So if you remember, we have talked about Trishna or Vasana, which are these desires that go with us from lifetime to lifetime. And every lifetime we are born, we become a toddler, a teenager, and they start showing up again, and they are from previous lifetime. We really have to see them through and set them aside using a choice. And what are those three vasanas? Lokavasana, the desire to run after society, become well known in the world. Shastra vasana, to become a scriptural or spiritual know-it-all scholar, and worldly vasana and deha vasana, and comfort to the body, beauty to the body, excessive, not regular health, just it should be perfect. So, owing to that, we run after these vasanas. So, our beautiful go-to text was Vivek Chudamani in verse 271 says, Loka vasana, Loka vasanaya janto, Shastra vasanaya picha, Dehe vasanaya jnanam, Yatha vanneva jayate. Owing to the desires to run after society, where do those desires come? Somewhere from inside me, and like a clockwork mouse, I start running. And the passion for too much study. It is not the study of uh, the spiritual traditions to live like that, but to study it, to become a knower of words. And the desire to keep the body good, trim, good looking, over exercised, over detoxified, over healthy. It's so much that the body takes so much upkeep that one is unable to utilize the time in self-realization. That is why samsara is compared to a prison, and that we are prisoners in it. And until we calm this mind and its constant private yearning, longing, happiness, and happy, don't calm that by settling down with the knowledge that this is Govinda's domain, this is Ishvara's domain, and that whatever is occurring here, let me just step back and be curious, because it may not be immediately something I prefer. But if the whole universe, this intelligent universe, is transpiring it, then this is what is meant to be, and this is where my soul will grow. But unfortunately, the desire for self-realization, God realization, is obscured by millions of desires for things and situations and hope and planning and imagination, that our mind never becomes restful. Never. And on top of that, we think that this hurting our body, giving it discomfort, and showing that we are so ascetic and so deprived that we are somehow serving the spirit. We are not. We are not. In fact, Bhagavad Gita has even said that the more we think about things, the more our senses develop moha or attachment for those things. And when those desires are not met, what happens? Anger is born, frustration, resentment, a sense of divine victimhood. God forgot about me. God did me wrong. So, in this very important verse, verse 62, in chapter 2 of the Gita, what does it say? It says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasaste Put Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. Kama leads to Krodha. So dhyayato vishayan pumsa. Vishaya means objects. I think I should get a promotion. I think my parents should not age, should not be diseased, or why are they living so long? Why don't they now leave the body? All these desires, or I think I would like to become a grandmother now, a grandfather now. Why am I not a grandmother, grandfather now? I'd like to be a grandmother, but not from this woman. Why can't my child choose another person? None of that. Sangaste, what happens with Sangha? Then what is the upaja? What emerges from this attachment? kama, this more and more, I want, I want, I want. And when that wanting naturally doesn't always get fulfilled, this universe is not a genie. This is a false teaching that ask what you want and the universe shall deliver to you. It's just it strokes that moha within us, and we all get busy trying to milk the udders of the universe, trying to get what we want. But this karma leads to krodha, it leads to anger. Anger is not just expressed anger, but internal anger. And due to this anger, we become out of control. We do so many actions. Actions generate more desires, and there is no end to it. So we are looking at uh, this delusional spiritual person sitting in front of the fire, um, shivering in the cold, begging for food. This is a common sight in India. And you can imagine that in your own cultures, what do men of God uh, look like when they are not truly godly deep inside them? What does that look like? Even I am aware that in Christianity, in Judaism, Sikhism, Buddhism, I'm aware of the harsh regimens taken up by people of God. And those might actually, we will find out that probably that might also be an okay path to walk on, provided one is also doing the inner work. So now we look at verse 17, and in a continuation of that theme, we understand this from verse 17. Kurute Ganga Sagar Gamanam Vrat Paripalanam Athva Danam Kurute Ganga Sagar Gamanam Vrat Paripalanam Athva Danam Jnanavihinam Sarvamatena Muktim na bhajati Janmashatena Jnanavihina Sarvamatena Muktim na bhajati Janmashatena. So in India, there is a holy river called Ganga, the Ganges. And it is considered culturally that if you can take a dip in the Ganga, then your millions of lifetimes of negative karmas dissolve away in that water. And all this fasting business that we are seeing in the West, we should fast weekly, we should fast daily. Now, this is inbuilt in the Hindu society. Why? Because fasting was considered a way to purify our senses, not just lose weight or live longer. It was not that. It was this desire to train the senses. Then the senses are always expecting that first thing I get up, I will eat a hot breakfast. So one day a week, 2 times a week, we will withdraw these privileges from the senses. And, in an average Hindu life, in a traditional setting, I'm not talking about the people who live in urban India and they do not follow the culture, but I would say the 80% people who live in the smaller towns and the villages. Fasting 5 to 7 days a month is no big deal for them. On every 11th day of the moon, also, there is a regular fast. My grandmother would fast 10 to 11 days a month. Today is Pradosh, today is Ekadashi, on every full moon. Oh, today is a full moon now, today is a Purnima. So today is this, today is that. Fasting would go on. Every Tuesday I fast, or every Sunday I fast for to please Ishvara in the sun. Every Tuesday I fast to please Ishvara in the Mars. Every Monday I fast for Shiva. Fasting goes on, which is quite commendable in the sense of health for the body and also calming the senses. And another inbuilt part of a healthy Hindu, a healthy Christian, and other religions' life is dhanam. Do whatever you have, you also give. Whatever money you have, your right hand should give and your left should not know, or your left hand should give and your right. So it should not pump up your ego. It is part of your duty. So elsewhere in the Vedic tradition, these suggestions are given. Because, for example, when you go to pilgrimage, when you go to the Ganga, um, or any other site of pilgrimage based on your faith, it takes effort. It's not the routine vacation. It takes effort, and it's an effort towards Govinda, towards Ishvara. So it's considered okay if you have to roam around, go to a temple, go to a church, go to a mosque, go to a place where some avatar walked. So it's good for you. So usually these things are considered healthy and they are recommended elsewhere. However, in this highest Vedanta teaching of Bhaj Govindam, what we are learning is that some people become satisfied only with this. I have been to Ganga not just once a year, but every year. There is a Kumbh Mela happening. There is a Maha Kumbh and a mini Kumbh, and I will go here. I will go to Banaras and I will take a dip, Varanasi, and I will take a dip here, especially during Shivaratri, or Ram Navami or Krishna Navami. These are festivals, and I will go to the Ganga and I will take a dip. And I have done it, so people feel that they are doing much better. And I observe, last 25 years, I have not eaten salt on this day or that day. And I give this much donation to the Ram Mandir, to this temple, to that temple. Okay. But this verse is saying devoid of one very critical word, devoid of jnana. Jnana, jnana vihinaha. So when you are devoid of the knowledge, and knowledge is not ordinary knowledge of the world and worldly sciences and worldly arts, but the transcendental knowledge, the paravidya of Atman, of Brahman, of the ultimate reality of Ishvara, the kind of knowledge that we try to cultivate here in our Vedic study circle. This is knowledge. It takes years to cultivate. And this knowledge liberates us. It does not bind us further. With every hearing, we lose a few more threads of the ropes that are binding us. So it leads to, but without jnanam, none of our outer spiritual acts, such as, or gross actions, such as fasting and chanting and, going for pilgrimage or donating to temples and causes, they are going to free us. They will not lead us to the next important word we are looking at is mukti. So what is mukti? And then ironically, this verse says, even if you do this for 100 lifetimes, 100 births, 100 times you take birth and you become a very dharmic person. Who is a dharmic person? The one who keeps their body pure, the one who goes on pilgrimage in temples, the one who does donation. So what in short it is saying is, dharma in itself doesn't lead to moksha. This is a really important statement. I meet a lot of dharmic people, and they feel very content with their dharma, as they should, but they are dharmically self-ignorant. They are piously self-ignorant because the knowledge of self is a unique knowledge that is known as Vedanta. Vedanta means where even the Vedas end. It is not ordinary knowledge. And this knowledge is attained at the feet of a teacher who knows this knowledge, who lives this knowledge. As a result, one may go to Ganga's banks, one may observe fasts, one may give away their riches. We have stories of great kings. In fact, Kathopanishad starts with the the father of our main protagonist of the Katha Upanishad, Nachiketa. His father did this huge charity event where he said that he had many, many cows, and cows were the source of richness at that time, and I'll give away my cows. But what Nachiketa noticed was that his father gave away the more elderly and sick cows and kept a few healthy, just few healthy ones to himself, and gave away a lot. So how we give away what we don't need, extraneous money. But is that going to lead us to moksha? So question is, we have to understand the real nature of mukti. Mukti is known as moksha, kaivalya, nirvana, shreyas, amrita. So these are all the synonyms of mukti. In Yoga Vashishta, very important scripture, we come across this in chapter 2, verse 10. Nirvanam nama paramam sukham yena punarjana na jayate na mriyate tad jnana deva labhyate. So nirvana is the kind of an extinction of the self. And what does it mean? No, it doesn't mean death. It means the extinction of this small self that lives in the mind, that is unaware of its true relationship with Ishvara, and that Brahmasmi, that I am that ultimate. There is no other. But it's an extension of this small self that feels that it needs to constantly transact in the world. It's born of ignorance. And this leads, when it dies, when it is extinct, that is known as nirvana, then a supreme bliss takes over. Why? Because bliss is the nature of our true self. And how does this happen? It happens through the right knowledge. We reclaim our right identity. And when we reclaim our right identity, then we become freed from the obligation to be born again and again. This small self is seeking something, it doesn't know what, so it keeps being born again and again. What dies? The small self. What is reborn? The small self. And the only way out is through jnanam. So this jnanam is what will lead us to mukti, not anything else. Now, please understand that Shankara, the Acharya Shankara, is not telling us that you don't go to Ganga or it's worthless to go to. He's not doing that. What he's trying to show is, if we think that by our pious, by asceticism alone, as giving harsh conditions to the body, as some holy people tend to do, or by our large-hearted, charitable, or spiritual outer actions by traveling here, going there. We will arrive at mukti, then for hundreds, thousands of janmas, births, it shall not happen. Why? Because action is not the opposite of ignorance. Okay. Ignorance is like darkness, and its opposite is knowledge, which is like light. Only light removes darkness. Action, on the other hand, if we start taking actions, then more desires. I'm going for a pilgrimage, or I'm creating a donation event, then so many desires, so many thoughts. So we need knowledge. संसारोतरणे जन्तो रूपायो ज्ञानमेव हि तपोदानं तथा तीर्थम् अनुपायः प्रकीर्तिता. Only divine knowledge of Atma, Brahman, Ishvara, this kind of knowledge is capable of taking us across the ocean of samsara. And austerity, clearly, austerity, charity, pilgrimage, these only purify the mind, but they do not take us across. You can have a pure mind and you can still be stuck in samsara because you will never know who you are. You will never know how to quench, to extinguish this little self and its noise. You would never know. That is why in this previous verse, which I quoted again from Yoga Vashishta, we now look at another verse from Vivek Chudamani. Vadantu shastrani yajantu devan kurvantu karmani bhajantu devata atmaikya bodhena vinapi muktihi na siddhyati brahmshatantare api. Straightforward, Shankaracharya says in Vivek Chudamani, let people quote the scriptures, let them make sacrifices to the gods, let them perform rituals, let them worship non-stop the deities. You can do all the bhakti you want, you can chant all the kirtans you want, but there is no mukti, no liberation without jnanam, without the realization of one's identity with Atma, with Brahman. So, and even not only your 100 lifetimes, but the 100 lifetimes of God Brahma, which is supposed to be like our 100 million lifetimes, there is no break. So, what we are actually being told once again is that look for the right thing. Even this is a moha, it's a delusion that your outer actions can lead you um, to a state of non-suffering. Just like we cannot, if we are caught up in a nightmare, in a dream, we are suffering, then you can't simply change the script in your dream to feel better. Ultimately, the only solution is to wake up completely from the dream so that the dream extinguishes. Similarly, we have to wake up completely from this waking story in which we are a character with a name and a body and a culture and a race and a story of good, bad, ugly, lovely. We have to wake up from it through the aid of knowledge. And this is not intellectual knowledge. This is not scholarly knowledge. This does not come from learning how to talk about Atman, Brahman, which then we tend to do. We really have to live this knowledge. And that is why it said that one can rule the world. But for real peace of mind, real peace, real bliss, one needs knowledge. And who receives knowledge? The one Shraddhavan labhate gnanam. What is Shraddha? Shraddha means one who has faith, trust, patience, commitment towards two voices. Guru Vedanta Vakya, the voice of the Guru, and the voice of Vedanta, which is our Shastra. Why the Guru is noted first? Because we cannot find Vedanta without the Guru. So, and one to have cultivate Shraddha in it. Why? Because it takes a few years of committed study, regular study, and then internalization. Once again, there is delusion. I have studied for 22 years, so I know more. You may know nothing, only words. So, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. The one who has Shraddha will get this jnanam. The other will just sit there, take a class, leave. So, it is said that just like if a tree is wet for some reason, then even in a forest fire, it might not get scorched. In the same way, when we have jnanam, the real knowledge, then in the fire of samsara, we do not get scorched and we stay blissful. So in verse 18, we are once again looking at the mistaken idea. It might be sincere, but the mistaken idea that this is enough, that this is enough. My fasting is enough, my donation is enough, um, my chanting is enough. Is it enough? Will it lead to freedom? Will it lead to mukti? That remains a question. Now we look at verse 18. Sura Mandir Taru मूल निवासः शय्या भूतल मजिनं वासः सुरमन्दिरतलु मूल निवासः शय्या भूतल मजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखमना करोति विरागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः. Now, this is the play of teaching. Once again, we come across the description of a sadhu who is leading the life of an ascetic. But this ascetic is becoming successful. So we say, this verse is saying, take your residence in a temple that is below a tree. So in India, some of the holy trees, the large trees like the banyan tree, we consider them as places where divine spirit lives. They are considered holy, and many people, they will say that this is a temple, or they will build an altar there, and they start serving that tree. They start looking after that tree. They become its caretaker. And then people all over the land, if they pass that tree, they will stop and bow. Why? Because Ishvara is everywhere. So that tree becomes like a temple. And so these people start living there. They don't leave that tree. That's the interesting thing. And they live there and they never go groceries or anything, maybe for their ablutions, but people will bring them food. So this is a very common sight in India, very common. In any given city, there will be some 1,000 trees that have turned into temples. So now, come sun, come hail, those trees won't be chopped down. People stand in its support. No, this is Ishvara. We cannot cut it down. So now it's very holy. And it inspires people towards ecology, towards spirituality, and could be in the middle of a bustling road. Somebody converts a tree into a residential abode of Ishvara and they become its priest and a caretaker. So this verse is talking to about those people that maybe one of them takes residence in one of the temple below a tree. And such people often do not wear regular clothes. Some animal has shed their skin, like a deer skin, they'll pick it up and wrap it around themselves. So it's not they don't kill an animal because they believe in ahimsa, but they're wearing that skin. And they sleep on earth. They just sleep on Mother Earth as their bed. And they've given up supposedly all attachments and they've renounced all comforts. And yet we find some of them to be content, supremely blissful. So now, instead of showing the irony, this verse by his student Sureshwara is saying to us that they are content. Why? Because now this is the catch. They are blessed with an additional mental quality along with their outer asceticism, which was lacking in the previous example. And what is that one mental quality that these ascetics possess? And it is the quality of vairagyam, which is in this verse is known as viragaha. Ragaha, as I've mentioned before in this series, means to color, to be colored. And ragaha is kind of an attachment. It leads to moha. But viragaha is its opposite. It's a decolored state of mind. So because they have this viragaha state of mind, along with all their asceticism, such a sadhu, we are actually applauding. We're saying, Shankaracharya is not saying you have to do this. Give up your home, go live in a tree, call it the abode of Ishvara, wear a desk. No, because these verses had earlier mocked out asceticism, in this verse, an ascetic choice is being okay, it's being accepted. Okay, why? Because what's more important is not your outer choice to be an ascetic or to be a comfortable person in a house, such as sadhus like myself. What is more important is, do you have viragaha or ragaha in your mind? So now we're talking. Now we are coming to the crux of what is real asceticism. Why is this person blissful? Because this person has chosen to be not attached mentally. So, hark back to the verse 9 in which we went through Satsangatve Nisangatvam Nisangatve Nirmohatvam Nirmohatve Nischalatatvam Nischalatatve Jivanamukti. What were we learning? That through satsang, we develop nisangatvam. We through satsang, right association, we start recognizing our wrong associations, wrongful associations of our senses. From that withdrawal from wrongful associations, we become nirmoha, we become delusion free. And when we become delusion free, what happens? Nischalatattva, mind becomes placid, mind becomes calm. And when the mind becomes calm, what happens? Mukti. So mind becomes calm, freedom. Mind becomes calm, freedom. Mind becomes calm, freedom. Why? So in this verse, we saw that satsang should lead to nisangha. Satsanga should lead to nisangha. And nisangha is another word like viraga. because we are so attached, so attached. But in Nisanga, we step back. We step back from all our attachments. I'm attached to this house. Oh, what will it be if I live without it? I'm attached to this job. Mentally, can I separate so that if the job is there, it's good. If the job is not there, it's fine. If the job is see, you're stepping back, stepping back, stepping back. That is Nisanga. It is like a state of Vairagyam. That is how we move towards Mukti. So Patanjali, in his Yoga Sutras, has defined ragaha. He says, Sukhanushay ragaha. That thought which constantly dwells upon my pleasure, my happiness, me, mine, and what will bring me more. Oh, if this works out, then I'm happy. If this works out, then I'm happy. Then that is raga. It is too much connection to my happiness. That is why once again we go back to verse 62 in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, very important. Dhyato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate. Sangast jnayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate. That when we think about things, then we develop attachments to them, raga, we want them for our happiness. And then this ragaha leads to more kamaha, more desire, and then more desire, and it's typical non-fulfillment, often fulfillment, non-fulfillment, because that's not up to us, anger. So kamaha is desire, ragaha is attachment to that desire, and when kama raga is not fulfilled, then moha, delusion, and from delusion, krodha, anger. So these things happen. So what we are being told is, so we realize from verse 18 that our Acharya and his students are not mocking asceticism as such. They're saying, it's up to you. What they are pointing out is that it is the mental quality of are you stuck or are you unstuck? Are you leading life from a controlling place or an easy detached place? That is important. Because if we have this raga, let me stop and give you the difference between kama and raga. Kama is a desire for things you don't have as yet. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. That's kama. And ragaha is attachment to things you have. I have this person in my life and I want them always in my life. That is raga. So, and when we have ragaha, when we want things and objects that are giving us happiness, pleasure to be in our life just so. So, for example, the ascetic may have ragaha to being an ascetic. So, when you're so stuck in your ways, you think that is the only way, then you will be either disappointed or betrayed, or you will have to undergo loss. And so you will not be able to remain poised. So, but a wise person, they are free inside through viragaha or vairagyam. They know that, oh, I'm too attached to this, so I should not remain attached to this. So, in my own life, in my own practice, I look at areas where they could be ragaha. Oh, okay. What are the easy areas to be attached to? Your child, your pet, your profession, your parent, your health. And all those areas we sit and we look at it internally and say, okay, If this was not meant to be, if this is not good, what will be there? There will be self. So it's a whole process, which as I keep teaching Jnana Yoga, you will learn, but you want to step away from it. You don't want to be completely colored by it, so that if it moves even an inch, your life is a mess. Some people develop raga to their guru. So then the guru takes on a human body. And when the guru wants to let go of that body, they will let go of that body. And some people are tragic struck. They go into depression. They want to commit suicide. What did your guru teach you? So raga can happen anywhere, in the spiritual domain, psychological domain, physical domain of people, objects, relationships, circumstances. We are colored by it. And there is no space for it to be any different. Sometimes I will meet people who will be very noble, very kind, but then they will say, I just want everything to go well now. I want my son's job to go on. And I would just, my cholesterol is finally in the right reading. And, oh, Ishvara, please keep my reading well. What is all this? Trying to control the body, trying to control the profession of your child. This is all raga. And this person will surely suffer, right? So that is why um, our teacher Ashtavakra has given us a very clear guidance. What? Yatra yatra bhave trishna samsaram vidhi tatra vai prodvairagyam ashritya vita trishna sukhi bhava. What does Ashtavakra say? Ashtavakra says, look, anytime you start noticing too many, I want this, I wish this, it should be, and I'd like it to be, all these desires start percolating in an area, quickly know that this is the whirlpool of samsara. Now it will pull you down. Now it will pull you down. So establish yourself in firm vairagya. Step back from it. Oh, this is coloring me. Okay, no, sorry, I'm not going there. And think the opposite thoughts. Maybe I will lose my job. Maybe I will get cancer. Maybe, so what? My Atma is there and Ishvara is there. So what? So what? When you do that, when you talk back to all those, I wish and I could, and it must be, and oh dear, and please and pray, everything calms down. Then what happens is you become free. Now you're free. You're not so much controlling it. And then you become happy. And this takes some time. This takes some time. This is not necessarily an easy thing to do. Um, however, with abhyasa, with practice of what? Vairagyam, of constantly stepping away, as Patanjali has said, abhyasa, vairagyam, these two things go together. Abhyasa means practice, and vairagyam means what? Of dispassion. So all the yogis of modern world have decided to practice of what? Your asanas, practice of what? Your breathing. But actually, Patanjali was saying practice decoloring your mind. And anytime you notice too much clutching behavior in your mind, you step back. No, I don't want this. So when you do that, it's not easy, but slowly it will start calming down and you will become less and less colored. To give an example, you may have, well, in my own life, one of the areas where there was raga was not around my father's longevity as such, because I just knew too much to know that that's not in my control. And but probably around him having a positive aging experience. Let his social life, his emotional life be well taken care of. And when, as a spiritual seeker, I decolored even from that expectation, remembering that the way a jiva, a embodied soul's life, their youth, their middle age, their old age, and how it will be is not under his control or my control. That is only part of the entire package. Every seed that is buried in the soil will become a tree, and what winters it will face, what springs, what sun, what shower, what birds will visit it and what birds won't. Every detail is managed by a greater power, Govinda, Ishvara. So, what I can do as a fellow soul in samsara is to do my part. And if there is net amount of suffering or happiness or indifference in this body's life, which I label Father, then it is all good. And as I stepped back as a character in this samsaric story, I had more freedom for Father's life to unfold as it must, without my mind going through ups and downs, through a related character's ups and downs. This may sound cold to some people. Are you not a caring daughter? But along with playing roles as a daughter, we are also Atma. We are also someone who happens to call another body father, mother, sister. Kate Kanta Katoputra. Bhaja Govindam has already said, who is this person you call father, mother? Where were they earlier in your other lifetimes? And will they join you in this lifetime? So even stepping back from some of that intense relationships, because anything intense colors us. In samsaric language, passion is a great thing. But passion in Atmic language can put us in bondage. If I am showing up to teach you from passion, then there is a problem. If I am showing up to teach you because this is what is naturally flowing, naturally the flow of knowledge has come to me and from me to you. Naturally, the night turns into morning. Naturally, this body is continuing to be able to teach from last week to this week. And who knows if next week or not. But if it's natural flow. And if this knowledge is liberating you and me in the teaching and in the hearing, then this is the highest knowledge. And in this highest knowledge, let us not be colored by it. Let us not use childish vocabulary even to ourselves, like, I love Vedanta. Let us be restful in true preparation of mukti, which is a decolored, non-stressed out, non-controlling mind. This is the purport of verse 18. When we meet next time, if it is meant to be, we shall continue. Take care.